In today's episode, I'd like to share two very special people with you. Since living in Australia, they have been an absolute inspiration to me and my husband, and their kindness, energy, enthusiasm, and wisdom has been something we treasure. Today, you get a dose of Bob and Sue Beaumont. At the age of 18, Bob Beaumont joined his father in a small business selling tiles and other wholesale goods to the building trade. Together, they grew the business while Bob studied marketing at the South Australian Institute of Technology, later known as the University of South Australia. In 1978, Bob became general manager and Beaumont Tiles grew to multiple locations. Today, the business is the largest tile retailer in Australia with over 100 outlets, half being owned and half are franchised, as well as having extensive trade operations in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. Over the years, Bob has been constantly supported by his incredible wife, Sue, who has also been very much part of the business. For over 30 years, Sue was Staff Development Officer at Beaumont Tiles, and together they created a formidable team. Beaumont Tiles has become known as a trusted Australian business with a great team and a very proud 61-year history. Beaumont Tiles employs more than 450 people in addition to those employed by their franchises. And in 2021, Bob and Sue sold Beaumont Tiles to Bunnings, Australia's largest hardware store, although Beaumont Tiles continues to be a separate entity to Bunnings. But since then, Bob and Sue have embraced retirement and they're loving every single moment of it. And today, you're going to learn how creating a healthy and resilient mindset has been very much crucial in their life. So are you ready? Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast with me, clinical somatic educator and founder of Total Somatics, Heidi Hadley. The Somatic Movement and Mindset podcast has been designed to help you gain a deeper understanding to how your mind and body work. You will learn about your amazing mind and body and why over time you can feel pain, recurring injuries and poor posture. Within this podcast, I will teach you why this doesn't have to be your future or the norm for you. Would you like to learn how to reduce pain, move freely, and gain a new lease of life? Let's get started.
So welcome back. And from that wonderful bio, I'm really excited to introduce to you Bob and Sue Beaumont. Now, I'm just going to bring them in and let them say hello and we can get started from there because we have got so many things that we want to cover today about mindset. And by the end of it, you're going to be injected with such enthusiasm and zest. I can't wait to hear your response from this wonderful episode. So welcome, Bob and Sue.
G'day, Heidi, how are you?
Hello, everyone.
Oh, no, as you could see from that brilliant bio, and, you know, as the two of you know, there's a lot more that's happened between those paragraphs over the years. So what I wanted to really ask you as we get started in this episode is, when did you realize that mindset was an important component of your life? I mean, was there a particular person or an event that triggered this discovery?
I think I've always had an attitude, and we both have shared this, an attitude of positivity, of expecting people to be nice and good, of looking to people to be friends, you know, strangers are friends you haven't met yet, that sort of attitude. We've always embraced people, and I think this expectation that we're going to like people, even if we don't always in the end, but that positivity has always flowed through everything we've done.
Yeah, we've both always been pretty positive people. And I think one of the key things that we've focused on is that we don't try and take ourselves too seriously. You know, but a lot of people try and think of themselves being too seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously,
No.
do we? We have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, we laugh a lot together.
We do.
And sometimes at each other's expense, but very good-naturedly.
And was there anyone that, like, any inspirational person about mindset that kind of really started this whole discovery on the subject?
Well, I think probably for me, aside from my good wife, of course, and my father and people you'd think there was a guy by the name of Jim Rowan who is an American guy, and I went to one of his weekend seminars back in a long time ago, and it really just turned my life upside down. He taught me how to set goals, for example, in an effective way, and not only set them, to actually achieve them. And imparted so much wisdom. And even now, if I have to drive by myself on a 6-hour trip or something like that, and to Melbourne, then I'll put on his weekend seminar, and I'll drive to Melbourne, drive around Victoria for a while, then drive back. And by the time I'm driving back, I've just about completed the seminar. And I've done this so many times, and I always pick out something new, something different, something important from it. If you ever have the chance of hearing any of his audio recordings, and you can buy them online, he is the wisest business philosopher I've ever come across.
Yeah, he is brilliant, isn't he? I remember you mentioning years ago, Bob, and after that I started finding lots on YouTube as well. So there's loads on there, which has been really, really good over the time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, because of that being like your framework, really, how important has it been creating like a healthy and resilient mindset during the years of a very busy time raising a family, and then continuing to focus on your marriage, because you were working together in the business as well as having your family life as well, but then there's all the other dynamics of taking care of your health and creating time for that like rest and relaxation, plus juggling all these balls of managing a business and the dynamics that go with a business that's nationwide too.
Well, at the time we really didn't think much about it. It just was what it was.
Yes.
And I think it's important that you do what you have to do when you have to do it. And whatever circumstances dictate, you meet them, and you do what you need to do. I was quite bemused when my daughter had her children, because I observed how much work that was, and what a stress it was. And I said to Sue, hey, I didn't realize how much load you took on while I was growing the business, that you had to shoulder all this stuff yourself. And, well, not all of it, but I did a reasonable amount, but she did such a large amount. But she was willing to do that, and she didn't ask me to do any more, because she knew that I was under a lot of stress building a business and going through a lot of difficulties. But then, there was a house to build, there was gardens to do, and all that sort of thing too. So if something's there, you just get on and do it.
I think procrastination is the biggest enemy of being positive, because if you've got things hanging over your head that you're not dealing with, whether it be something you had to do for the kids, but they always let you know if you haven't fed them or something. But on a greater perspective, it really eats away at your quality of life, your stress levels, everything. And so I found just a simple thing like a to-do list, and it might be major goals like Bob writes down every year and then reviews, or it might be just something you need to achieve for the day. And achieving stuff gives you such a positive feeling, and it works the same whether you're in business or you're at home. Just that feeling, that's those little small feelings of encouragement, of doing things, of achieving things.
Yeah.
It makes life much more positive.
And with when you have opposition, you just get on with it. You choose not to be fragile. You choose not to be dependent. You're supportive of each other. Sue was very supportive of me. I've been very supportive of her. You're supportive of each other, not expecting anything in return. You don't keep score. You know, people talk about, oh, you're going to get some good brownie points for that. And I'm actually a bit offended by that, because, you know, we just don't do that. You don't do stuff to get stuff. You do stuff because you love somebody.
Yeah. I know we're digressing a little bit here, Heidi, but an attitude of giving, whether it's giving time, giving something to your partner, your time or your encouragement, giving financially, giving of yourself and not being so introspective, is a way to being positive and joyful, and not being so wrapped up in what you're having to do, because you can feel overwhelmed.
That's right.
Especially if you're a mum with 2, 3, whatever number children. If you need to look outwards, otherwise you'll sink.
That's right. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose not to be a victim. In those sort of circumstances, obviously there are different ones, but try to choose not to be fragile, not to be dependent, and not to be a victim.
Yes, you can actually. This is something we got out of one of the speakers. I can't remember which one we listened to, which we keep learning, keep trying to find new things. Was that if you're continually looking outwards instead of inwards, it just makes so much difference.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was thinking there was just a couple of things you were saying on that made me think of, if people are feeling really low, and you were saying, Sue, about like those, almost like those micro habits to do even just on a daily basis. It could be that you've got somebody that just to get out of their pajamas for the day and maybe go and have a shower, it might be something they need to do just to shift the state of like their nervous system and their mindset, really.
Yes.
Because it might be that they feel so low and despondent that it could be something like that. And then going out, like you say, there's like a volunteering side of things, isn't there? When you give, you get so much more back. And you just don't know what that person's going through either.
No.
Giving is so important, and you can't judge other people, because, as you say, Heidi, you don't know what they're going through, and you can judge people from your point of view. You can judge people externally, but you don't know what they're going through. So just assume they're going through a tough time.
Yeah.
And be nice.
And it doesn't hurt to give somebody a smile, does it, when you're walking along the road, even if you're not feeling great in yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got this game where we go into a restaurant, and if the waiter or waitress isn't smiling, we don't leave until we've got a smile out of them.
Yeah. I mean, you can
it's a great game.
You can do that with shoppers. Somebody who comes to the front door to deliver something.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and
you just brighten their day.
But the thing is, it's reciprocal, because once you've made them smile, you feel happier and you feel more positive. So it spreads positivity around. And look, you know, we talk about these small micro achievements in a day. When I had the children and I was just so busy, I discovered that if I made the bed in the morning, it was a huge achievement for me, because I didn't have a child jumping on it while I was trying to make it. But just even little things. And if you write them out and then you tick them off, or you've got them on your phone, you've got a task list on your phone. And the key is not to fill that task list up with so much that you feel overwhelmed again, because as soon as you feel overwhelmed, you've negated all the possible outcomes. You just need to keep it simple. And especially if you're starting out on this journey of changing your mindset, you keep it simple, just 2 or 3 things a day that you can tick off. And there can become more of them as you get into the habit of doing these things, of interacting with people, giving of yourself. I mean, sometimes your little list could be have something like smile at someone else today.
Yeah, it's good to have little achievements every day.
It's brilliant.
Big achievements is even better.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I was going to say, obviously, because this episode is getting everyone jump started in January for the start of the year, obviously
Yes.
everything that we're discussing now is all throughout the year. So it will be great for people to come back and double check, because, you were saying about the Jim Rohn thing. Every time you listen to something, you extract a new piece of information that you thought, I don't remember hearing that before. So because this is obviously at the start of the new year, this is really just use this as a bit of a recalibration. But what I want to congratulate the two of you for is at the end of 2022, you celebrated your 50th wedding anniversary. And for us ones that have got a few years to catch up on the 50 years, what kind of mindset, or how important has mindset played in your very happy 50 years of marriage?
Oh, this is mine, all mine.
Oh, no, it's fine.
When we were married, everyone said to us, your marriage should be a 50-50 arrangement, and Rob and I looked at each other and thought, no, that's not right. Because if you say I've got a 50-50%, 50 your way, 50 my way, whatever, you're making expectations that you're going to get. And if your partner doesn't give, then you're feeling resentful. So what we aim for is 100% marriage, where I give 100% and importantly, so does he. We never achieved it, but we strove for that and we kept it at the back of our mind. So there was no, I should be getting this or I should be getting that. It was, what can I do for you? You're the one that I'm trying to support and encourage and love.
To give you an example, I was very keen on motor racing when I first met Sue. And so she decided to become interested in motor racing. Now, she didn't just condescendingly give affirmation to my hobby. She actually became interested because she decided to become interested, and she became more of a fanatic than I did. And so it wasn't that she sort of went along with it. She dived in and became interested because she chose to become interested. Likewise, this late in our marriage, I've decided to become interested in birds because she's always been a very keen bird watcher. I've been a keen photographer, and I've sort of dutifully followed along behind, taking photographs of birds for her. But now I've decided that no, I will become interested in birds, and that was a rational decision. So now we're both enjoying it together.
I was going to say some great photos as well, Bob, when you recently went to the Flinders, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, got some good ones.
Really, some really good pictures there. So yeah, I was going to say, so it's really good to I love that point, Sue, where you said it's like 100% both sides, because it kind of plays back to Bob's thing earlier on about the point score, and you never want it to be like that, do you? Because it's a team, it's team effort, really.
Yes, yeah, no point scoring, no brownie points. Brownie points don't exist in our house.
Oh, don't we? Now, I was going to say, you've obviously said there's influential people that have been in your life and that sort of thing, and that got you going with this area of mindset. But has there been like a particular phrase or a statement that you've recalled over the years to help you recalibrate when times have been very challenging?
Well, there's been a few, really, a lot since I've been exposed to people like Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and a lot of other really great people. In fact, I should mention Dale Carnegie, because he was a very early proponent of a positive attitude. But something which really has hit me is, it doesn't matter which way the wind blows, it's the set of your sail which determines the direction you go. So even if you've got a headwind, you can still keep going by setting your sails in the right direction. And likewise, one of the things that Jim Rohn said was, how tall does a tree grow? The answer, as tall as it can.
Wow.
So he said, if you can do better, should you?
Yes.
And that really hit me. I thought, oh, Can I do better? Of course I can do better. If I can do better, should I? Yes, I should.
Yeah.
And that really spurred me on.
Yes, and in regards to when things go wrong, and let's face it, we live in a world full of human beings, and we ourselves face all sorts of issues and problems, and things just come at us. And some things we can't change. And when the circumstances, like COVID hit, and I think the world was in shock, and it's taken us a lot of time to get over that and recover. And a lot of people are still doing so. And my attitude to negative events in my life has been, it is what it is. And that's it. You look forward. You don't look back. You learn from the past. You draw a line in the sand. You reset your goals, even if you have to readjust them mightily or go in a different direction, but you reset your goals, set a line on the ground, and then you go forward.
That's right. That's right. And also somebody said to me, which I really took on board, don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
We like that one, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I don't take you seriously and you don't take me seriously.
No. Except when it's
No, it's great. It's I was going to say, when I mentioned your bio at the beginning, you've been so inspirational over the years. And I know over the time you've both said how you've gone, you've driven around to the different stores in Australia and you've given like inspirational speeches and really just kept people going. So mindset's been a huge, it's been really central to everything you've done, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of success stories or accounts whereby that positive focus and that mentoring has really impacted a person or people's lives quite profoundly?
I think there's both the conscious and the unconscious influence that you have over people. There's the conscious influence you have where, we used to do a lot of youth work with Campus Life and other youth groups. And you get people coming back years later. One guy used to come, he was really scary. He was on his bike, he smelled of drugs. He was a scary guy. He used to come to our place and we were a bit concerned about him being there with all these other kids because they were all pretty feral. And anyway, I think probably about 10 years later, this guy arrived outside our house and we'd changed houses by that time. And he came to the front door, took off his motorcycle helmet and knocked on the door. And it was this guy. And he said, just wanted to tell you that turned my life around, became a Christian and I'm moving forward. And a lot of it is to do with you. So that sort of stuff is really good. But, in those sort of cases, you set out to actually help people specifically by mentoring them. But there are so many other instances where people might come up to me 10, 20, 30 years later and say, you probably don't remember me, and then they relate this story and how I've had an effect on them back all those years ago. And I had no idea.
And this is where positivity comes back in, where your attitude to people that you meet.
That's right. And
how you relate to people, which becomes natural. The more you practice it, the more it becomes an automatic reaction. And then that rubs off on others.
I had one situation where it wasn't very long ago. I don't think I even told you about it, Sue, that in the business, when I was leaving, somebody said to me, I still remember when you came to our warehouse at Huntingwood and we'd had this big flood and the whole warehouse, the huge warehouse, was just covered in water, and you didn't worry about it. You just came in and walked through the water and stood with the rest of us and spoke to us all, and you didn't worry about it. And I didn't think about it at the time. It was just something you did, of course. But this evidently had a profound effect on this guy. So you just don't know. So you've got to watch what you're doing, because people are looking all the time, and they'll always try and find fault, but sometimes they'll find inspiration.
Yeah. Actually, this would be a good time to mention, I've been mentoring, this is one of the deliberate times I've done it. I've mentored several people over the years, but this lass is a transgender lass. And she approached me to mentor her through her transition. And that was over 10 years ago. It was only supposed to be 2 years, but we're still going. But it's not something, she was very hurt by her family and a bit angry and very negative, very negative. And I just have to say to people that you have to be in a good place to start with before you take on a person who's very negative for whatever reason. But I took her on, and I think for the first 2 years, she hurt my feelings so many times.
Yeah.
But I would just have to let it wash past and concentrate on the goal, which was to encourage and to be positive and to see if she would be able to make the next step and make it a positive one. And 10 years later, she is, like, I reckon, probably a 75% more positive person.
I think she's 1,000% more positive, actually. She's actually pretty good now.
Yeah.
It's been quite an amazing thing. I really think that, looking back, she possibly even owes her life to Sue, because she was going through a very dark place. And Sue stuck with her. People were counselling Sue, oh, you should leave that alone because it's really affecting you. But Sue was stubborn and caring and loving and stuck with it. And it's wonderful to see what a great success this person has now made of their life with their study and their achievement. Really amazing. So I think it's a great example, Sue.
I think it's great as well, the two examples that you've given, and I'm sure there's loads more of that. Is the things that stood out for me was that that was that non-judgmentalness. So you just let them open, because then that's when you really get to hear people and you can help them, can't you? And then there was, as you say, that positivity and just keeping that open-mindedness, really, because with the chap that appeared a few years later and took his helmet off, you didn't realize that, you know, the effect you were going to have. And some people could have put a lot of judgment around the scenario he was in at the time, but you could see beyond that. And it's the same with Sue, you know, that again, people can have a different view of things, but you kind of stayed open, didn't you? Because you were looking at the person themselves. So it's taking it that bit deeper.
It's so easy to judge people, and we all do it, and I still do it all the time. And then I kick myself and say, don't judge because you don't know what they're going through. And we've just got to be more careful with our relationships with others, because we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what background they come from. We can't appreciate that. We just have to accept them the way they are.
And I should say also, with those two examples, they were sort of like extreme examples. But there are little examples all the time of your influence by giving of yourself and your time, even just as I said, just a smile. And this impacts your mindset. The more you give, the more your mindset becomes more positive, because you're getting response.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so that kind of makes me think about onto another question I wanted to ask you, actually, because it's in that sort of realm, is that if people are feeling quite overwhelmed or quite despondent and they're uncertain about their future and how their future is going to look, what advice would you give? Because how would you say they could shift their mindset? Because they, for example, they might be watching the news on a daily basis, which is pretty dramatic, and it has such a negative impact, and it frames their day that way, doesn't it? So how can we shift it to being more proactive and positive? What would you say to those ones that feel a bit despondent at this point?
Well, I'd be saying, change the things you can change, accept the things you can't change, and decide that you're going to have the wisdom to know the difference.
And then you make some goals.
Yeah.
You don't just say, this is bad, this is terrible, I can't see my way out of this. You have to start making those little steps, the little goals, Long term, maybe you need to retrain if you've lost your job. Maybe a family member has been in trouble and you want to try and help them, but you're so depressed. But I think making plans and trying to work them through is a good place to start.
I think people do get very negative, and it's very hard to get out of that negative space. And so I would urge everybody to try to not get into it in the first place, because negativity builds negativity and it just feeds on itself. Decide what you can change, what you can't change, and act accordingly. Deliberately choosing not to worry is important. Like if you find yourself worrying about it, you say, well, can you do something about it? No. Well, don't worry about it. There's no point in worrying about it, because it doesn't achieve anything if you can't do anything about it. You deliberately choose not to worry if you can possibly do that. Easy to say, hard to do, but we've had in our lives, we've had the benefit of leaning on God for strength and prayer and faith and that sort of stuff. That's been a great help for us, but not everybody has that. But you can still make that decision not to worry. And when those worries come up, say, no, I'm going to deliberately set those aside. I can't do anything about it. I'm going to work on the things that I can do something about. And look, worries and changes in circumstances and financial worries and the economy, they're not new things. We've been through so many cycles that we can see if we look back. And they'll turn. Good times turn into bad times and bad times turn into good times. It just happens all the time, and you just make the very, very best of it. Try to think through the things where you can gain an advantage in bad times, so that when good times come, you move forward.
Yeah. And if you're overwhelmed with worry and stress with these issues, and as what Bob said is absolutely true, but the thing that I'd like to add is that, you know, you're saying try not to worry and do these positive things. It might be 100 times a day that you start to worry and stress about these things, and you get locked into a cycle. And so maybe you have to have something that you distract yourself with. Whenever you start to sit there and churn over these issues, you say, okay, I'm churning, I've got to go do that.
Yeah.
And look, sometimes it can be a battle for a couple of weeks, you know, if something really, or over a long period of time, you need to just have that something that you like to do, or some place you like to go in your mind. Some people say imagine your happiest moments or something, but it can be anything. But as long as it takes you away from that churning repetition of being stressed and worried about your future.
And I think what's also great is because the opposite of that worry is that gratitude, isn't it? And like we were saying about the birds, it doesn't cost anything to look out the window and really appreciate the birds and the little shenanigans they get up to when they're arguing over a branch, or little things like that. And that just takes, as you say, Sue, it takes your focus away from that rumination or the worrying. And a school teacher once said to me, don't meet trouble halfway. Because, you know, you kind of worry about things, and because it may never happen. But it's if developing that gratitude. And you said, Sue, about the having goals and plans to go places. Well, I think we can all testify to this, that during COVID, when we couldn't go anywhere, when we couldn't plan anything, it really makes you feel different, doesn't it? So now that we have this opportunity that we can still step out of the house and go for a walk and enjoy nature, or we can connect with somebody, even if it's a hello in the park to somebody that you recognize on a regular basis, that's going to take us away from just focusing internally or worrying during those challenging times, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah.
So I was thinking, as we kind of just progress, just linking on a little bit from that, I was thinking that there's so many people around the world at the moment that are finding that their employment may be ending, or it's already ended. And there's other people that are really nervous about pivoting into a new area of work because maybe they've done it for decades, this particular type of work. And then you've got other people that may be wondering, is this the right time to start the business? You know, you worry about the economy and things like that. And yet historically, we now know we're living in this point called the Great Resignation, you know, so there's people making a big change. But also, you know, there's a different factor I thought was because of the rise of cost of living issues, some people are also looking at creating a secondary income. So there's all these different facets. What are your views on this? And what would you encourage a person to consider if they're in any of those scenarios?
Well, for a start, I'd urge people not to resign from anywhere until you've got something to go to. So many people make that mistake that they don't like where they are, and so they go somewhere, they resign before they have somewhere else to go. And I think that's a massive mistake. I've seen people make that mistake hundreds of times in my career. So don't react emotionally. Just because you don't happen to like where you are doesn't mean to say you're going to like anything else any better, because that's actually more about you, not about where you are. I see so many people who have left a business and they've gone somewhere else and they're no happier because it's them that's the problem, not where they were. And at Beaumont Tiles, I jokingly started a two-timers club and then a three-timers club, because people would say, "Oh, Bob, I'm going to leave. I've got this opportunity to go." And I say, well, if they happen to be very good, I'd say, well, look, give us a ring if you feel that you'd like to come back. And if there's an opportunity for you to come back, then I'd love to have you back. And it was amazing the number of people who actually returned. Quite astonishing. In fact, some businesses don't actually let people return for some reason. But I thought that was fantastic when they came back, because it just showed that they appreciated what they had and we appreciated what they had. And we even had a three-timers club where some people left for, you know, other reasons, and then they came back, and that was great. So don't resign unless you've got something to go to. As far as your own business is concerned, once again, have a really good plan. Firstly, have a really good plan, not a vague idea, a really, really good plan. And a good plan doesn't mean, oh, look, I've got this great logo and a great name and I'm designing this terrific website. That is one of those smallest things you have to concern yourself with. But it seems to be almost the biggest thing that people get carried away with originally. The color of the logo. What's our theme color going to be? Who cares? Have a really, really good plan first, especially a financial plan. Have a backstop where you can go back and have some spare amount of money there that you can call on if you need to, because you almost certainly will. Don't just do it emotionally if you're going to go into a business. Just because you happen to have a dream of running a restaurant doesn't mean to say you're going to be successful. So, you know, people go out, they borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars to fit out a new restaurant. They set it up and nobody comes. So you've got to have an awful lot more than just a good idea. Thousands of people, millions of people have good ideas, but not that many are successful. A secondary income is a great idea because it does tend to help you. It can be a lot of work, but as long as you don't mind work, then a secondary income is good. And then that secondary income can grow into a full-time income, and it's a much less risky way to go. A healthy mindset is great if you're starting a business, very important, but you've got to be cold and logical and rational as well. Don't get carried away with unrealistic enthusiasm. The world doesn't owe you success, much as the world might have told you that you are owed success. If you believe in something or you have a goal or something, it doesn't owe you anything. Have a serious and logical plan, and especially a financial plan. So if you're thinking of going into a business for yourself, there's the time aspect. I think I've talked to so many people who have wanted to start their own business, and they part of the idea behind their starting their own business, they want to work less hours. And I say to them, unless you are prepared to work 70 or 80 hours a week for the first 3 or 4 years of your business, don't even bother to start, because you'll probably fail. Starting your own business is a massive amount of work, huge commitment for so many hours a week. So don't even bother if you're not prepared to put the hard yards in.
Yeah.
So they're just some thoughts on starting a business and other income. But look, don't get too frazzled about the way the world is going, because we've seen it all before and much worse. So don't be too concerned. Change the things that you can change, but don't worry about things you can't.
Brilliant. I was going to say, I giggled because Janine Alice, who owns, she developed Boost Juice and all these like Chibo coffee and things like that. She said it's people that decide to leave working for somebody and running their own business. She said they've got a crazy mindset, really. Should they leave a 40-hour a week job to go and work over 100 hours and sacrifice a lot of other bits and bobs in the process? But that's the thing, it's about that work ethic, isn't it? And it's that focus as well. So it's really important.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, as we start to bring everything to a conclusion, because this is what I'm saying, everyone, isn't it really, really good to have this injection to get us started for the beginning of a new year? But as we kind of look at what's happening, what triggers would you say that you'd suggest people consider changing to help maintain, not just create, but maintain that healthy, resilient mindset? What things that, because in Total Somatics, we always talk about habits and rituals. So if there is a habit and a ritual that somebody has that could be a bit of a trigger, what could they do to shift that?
Well, I think it comes back to making some decisions about what you'd like to be and what you'd like to happen. And say, well, I'm going to need to decide what I'm going to do, and this is how I want to do it. I know I said it 3 times already, but that's because it's so important. I don't know whether you can add anything more to that, Bob, but yeah, that's about where I'd like to leave it.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, I think you've got to associate with positivity to get a good mindset. If you hang around people with a good mindset, you'll start to have a better mindset. If you hang around with people with a poor mindset, inevitably, no matter how strong you are, you will become more negative. So find a group of people who are successful, who are positive, who are loving, who are the sort of people that you want to be like, whether that's caring or in business, they are dynamic. Find a group of people that you want to hang around with, that you can hang around with, who are like the type of people that you want to become like.
And volunteers are quite often like this. You
volunteers,
can volunteer for something.
Yeah.
But even if it's just Meals on Wheels or
That's right.
Red Cross or something, but that changes your mindset.
That's right. I mean, we've had the benefit over many, many years of having a wonderful supportive church group of people. And that's been fantastic because they've been positive, loving people. But not everybody has that, but you can find a group who are positive and loving and caring in all sorts of walks of life. So find people who you want to be like and hang around with them.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I was going to mention as well is that, because when I originally thought of just connecting on a podcast, it was a few months ago now when I was a bit sick, and I don't watch a lot of morning or daytime TV because I'm usually at work, and in the morning I'm either listening to audiobooks or podcasts to kind of frame my day. So that's what I'm doing in the morning, getting ready and driving into work. But the one morning I turned the TV on because I just had no energy. I felt absolutely exhausted, and it was a breakfast TV show, and it was really catastrophized. And that's why I reached out to you and texted and said, can we do this podcast? Because it was this dramatic music. They had it looped. I timed it every 15 minutes. They kept repeating the same news story. The writing that came across the bottom was in red. So it's like, for me, I was looking and thinking, it's really ramping up someone's anxiety in their nervous system with the dramatic music, the stern faces, the red print across the screen. And that's why I thought we've got to do something, because if people are framing their day by watching the news, then they get in the car and then somebody cuts them up on the way to work. Before 9 o'clock, they're really wound up. And then that really sets their mood for the day, doesn't it? And that's why I was thinking with those triggers, it's looking at, and that's where things like Jim Rohn and other inspirational people, could we listen to something like that while we're getting ready for work or on the way into work itself? Because it does change, doesn't it? And those people we will never meet. Well, we can't because they're not here anymore, bless them. But for some of those people, but we can still get some of their energy, can't we, when we're listening to those episodes?
Yeah. Oh, that's just really important. And I think that if we can avoid watching TV and the news as much as we can, not to cop out of society, but if we can just avoid watching it, it actually does us a lot of good. I never listen to the radio in my car. I just don't. I either listen to positive recordings or nothing.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that point up, Heidi, because about 5 years ago, I discovered that I was feeling really, depressed in the mornings, and I'd finish off my night by watching the evening news, and it was getting worse and worse. And I said to Rob, I'm just not going to watch the news anymore. I'm going to read the news. And so we get our newspapers delivered to us by our email, and I've got two different sources, and I read it without the dramatic music, as you said, and the red lettering and trying to get people stirred up. I can then, if something I'm reading is very depressing, I'm thinking, oh, bless their hearts, but then I turn off and I turn the page and I read something else. I don't want to hide my head in the sand, but nor do I want them to choose how my attitude is going to be for the rest of the day.
That's right. Yeah, don't let somebody else choose your attitude for you. Choose your own.
Yeah.
It's like an energy vampire, really, isn't it? So we've got to protect ourselves in that way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is. And look, we must realise that these people have an objective, and that is to create as much controversy as they can so that they can get more people watching them and more newspapers sold in old terms, but more clicks. That's what their objective is. Their objective is not to communicate the truth. And so why should we bow down to them?
Yeah. I think your idea of Heidi, of listening to positive things in the morning and finish the same at the end of the day. You want to finish your day on a positive note. And I know people just love all sorts of different musics. Just find whatever type of music you like and listen to that. Read your news if you have to. But do things at the end of the day so that you go to bed, even though it might have been difficult or there might be worries. Do something that inspires you. I mean, to me, I've said I'd love to watch birds, and just watching them gives me so much joy. But there's lots of things out there, that people like. They might like to knit or create or paint or
just do stuff.
Yeah, positive.
It's all good, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Now, I was going to say, as we wrap up this wonderful, wonderful episode, what mindset takeaway points would you like to share today? I know we've kind of covered lots, but is there anything that you think that hasn't been brought out that you'd love to share with everyone?
Sue?
Well, I wrote down, when I looked at your little resume there, the secret of happiness is to live with an attitude of giving of yourself to your husband or your partner or your children or your community or your country, And you can give in all sorts of ways, with your money, with your time, even with that little smile to the lady you're passing in the park that you said, Heidi. That's all part of giving, and that makes you happy.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And for me, I'd say to be real, life isn't a superficial act. Choose who you want to be, what you want to be, but do it genuinely, because people can spot a fake a mile off. So also look at your spiritual life. It's more important than you might have been led to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, thank you so much. My goodness. That's why everyone that's listening today, I wanted you to get a dose of Bob and Sue, because they've got so much life experience, and as you can see, they've seen different things that have happened over the years. There's like, it's quite cyclical, isn't it, with the economy and politics and all sorts of things like that. So, but that we can't control any of the outside stuff, but what we can control is what we consume and what we ruminate on, or the shift in our mindset. And it really is about creating and maintaining that healthy and resilient mindset. So I just want to say another big, massive thank you to the two of you for joining us today, joining me and everyone else around the world that's listening. So just all of us are just sending all our love and our best wishes to you as you continue enjoying the next 50 years of happy marriage.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Heidi. Good on you.
No problem. Thank you. And thank you everyone listening today. And I'll see you all soon. All my love and best wishes. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.